Welcome to The Middle, a podcast about that messy middle in between job loss and the comeback, told by people who've lived it. From CEOs to veterans, athletes to analysts, we talk to folks navigating the unexpected turns in their careers and what comes next when the plan falls apart. These honest conversations will move you, make you think, and maybe even inspire you to leap into something new. Because behind every career pivot is someone just trying to figure it all out. So we are less than 60 days out from the opening ceremony of the Milan Games. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good, but the day before, on my way back to Calgary, on my flight, it just hit me. And it was sort of a moment of, am I actually prepared for this? Because it's crazy. Like a year ago, things were completely different. And I was sort of in a weird period of my life where I was like, maybe this isn't going to work. And now it's real.
You touched on it. So I want to go back to about a year ago. Keep me honest on the timing as well. You had decided that you wanted to go for your third Olympic Games. And you are an alpine skier. I'll clarify. We'll get into that, but I'll clarify that for the audience now. So you had been working for a company at the time, and you had asked them for support to, can you tell me, was it to start your journey? Was it to get a sponsorship? What were you looking for?
So I was trying to see what they could provide. This company was very big on mental health and also sponsoring the Olympics. So when I started working for them, I thought this was great. Like they'll be able to support my Olympic dream. And I could actually also have a job because it's difficult if you're not, top in the world. It's difficult to finance yourself. So I sent an email to my director, my senior manager, the person I reported to was very supportive. And I said, hey, this is what's going on. I am planning to start training for the Olympics again. I was wondering if, this company could potentially support me in some ways, whether that's like giving some services or, financial aid. And I said, if it's not possible, I totally understand that. And then a week later, I woke up, I looked at my watch and there was a meeting invite from my director. And normally we don't have meetings unless it's to deal with projects. And the title of the meeting was Update Meeting. I knew what it was just right away. So yeah, after asking for help about a week later, I was let go.
And you recorded it. Did you have that thought, like as you were, logging in that, hey, I'm just going to record this? And why? Why did you want to get that on tape?
I didn't know exactly if I was going to get let go, but I suspected it. And I had no intention of actually sharing that. It was solely for my own purposes. And it's actually very traumatic sometimes for me to even look at that video because I could see I was in such mental distress and just trying to keep myself calm. But when I shared it, I didn't expect people to have so much, to be so supportive and so, to resonate with the experience that I went through.
If you've gone through that, I think you see yourself in what you went through. I didn't video record mine. I audio recorded when I was let go. What did you think the very first time you saw it and rewatched it?
I was angry. I mean, there's a lot of things I wanted to say to that specific person who made the decision to let me go. And I was like, I wish I said this. I wish I, spoke up, but I was in such shock. And I think I also knew I needed to keep myself composed because things could have gone sideways. I think also there's another part of me that feels like powerless and weak in that moment. Like someone made a decision that my Olympic dream, just me asking for help for my Olympic dream, was more of a risk to the company. And I got let go for it. So I then felt like maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I should have just been quiet and I should have just coded my way through that job and been just a sort of a good employee and just follow the rules of what the corporate environment is.
Yeah, maybe I should have stayed small. Maybe I should have just kept my head down. Did you even comprehend or have time to process what that meant for going to a next Olympics after that call?
Yeah, I think I took the entire evening and I just sat in my office and just started trying to come up with plans. Financially, like I was given my severance package, so I was looking over it, seeing how much money I've already spent, because at that point I already had dropped probably close to $15,000 for the season, upfront cost for the season. So then I'm trying to calculate my severance, calculate what's going to happen in terms of once my severance runs out on, employee insurance. So it was a bit scary because I was like, maybe I should just let this go and try actually focusing on trying to find a job. And maybe this wasn't meant for me. So yeah, there was a lot of thoughts going in. And then I went for a run and I was quite angry and I just let out the emotions. And when I came to the end of my run, I had two thoughts. I was like, this either is going to destroy me or it's going to be the best thing that's ever happened. And after the run, I was like, I need to keep pushing forward. I need to keep trying to get this. So maybe it's going to be a month, maybe it's going to be 2 months, maybe 6 months, but I will get to a point where things will be okay again.
Did you ever feel like you lost your voice?
I did. I was quite upset, and it still bothers me sometimes. I remember, well, now I work for another company, and I got a random invite for somebody for a WebEx meeting, and I freaked out. But it turned out to be one of our contractors trying to talk to about a project. So it still affects me. Like I still feel like I don't have a voice sometimes, and I'm afraid to speak up because I'm going to potentially lose my job. And it's a terrible feeling to have, but I've come to sort of terms with that was a different time, a different environment. I'm in a place now where I'm safe. I feel supported by my colleagues and the company I work for. So I know that I'm in a better place, but it still does affect me because I read, I think it was Amazon let go 14,000 people. And that was in my mind, like, holy, that could be me right now. That was me a year ago.
I want to back up. How'd you get into skiing then?
My sister was part of a Girl Guide group, and they went to ski hill, our local ski hill there for a day trip, and she really liked it. So she came home and told my parents, like, hey, I really want to be in this racing program at the Fort McMurray Ski Club. My parents were a little bit reluctant, but eventually they allowed her. I didn't want to. Me and my brother really wanted to do hockey because when you grow up in a small town in Canada, like hockey is pretty much the sport. No one really does any of those other niche winter sports. So my brother's like, we want to go to the NHL. That's our dream. But my parents like, no, you're going to be put in ski racing. It's ironic now because they said they were afraid of me going into hockey because it was too, quote unquote, too dangerous. And then they put me in ski racing, and 10 surgeries later, I think they might be like, okay, that was a risky decision. But yeah, I fell in love with it when I was 7 because we moved to Calgary. So I got exposed to the Rockies, and things just picked up over the last 8 years. And then when I was 15, I got to go to my first youth Winter Olympic Games, and it just went from there.
What about skiing? Like, what did you love about it? What drew you in?
I liked the speed and the adrenaline. There was always that rush and feeling of just being able to bomb down a hill and feel like you're out of control, but you're really in control. So that's what drew me to the sport, and it still does. I don't know what it is. I get scared of certain things like water slides, going too fast on a water slide, but I will not get scared bombing down a hill. There's just an element of, I think, control that I have, and I always enjoy it.
And can you, for our listeners that may not know, can you describe what is alpine skiing? What does it entail?
So alpine skiing is an individual sport. Essentially, you're racing against a clock. There's 4 different disciplines. There used to be 5, which was a combination of downhill and slalom. They do have it at the Olympics, but it's a 2-person event now. So there's slalom, which is the shortest event where the turn radius is a lot shorter and you are cross blocking. So if you've ever seen online of people hitting the poles and they have the large chin bars, so that's what slalom is. That's my specialty right now, which I've been focused on. The next step up is giant slalom. So it's much more wider than slalom, and there's more turn around the gate. So the skis are longer and the speeds are higher, but it's still sort of in that controlled pace. Then there's Super G and downhill. Those are the speed disciplines. So they're a little bit more set as straight as the run. Speeds in those go from anywhere to 100 to 140 kilometers an hour. So you get going pretty fast, and you got these long skis. I think for men, it's 218 centimeters. So those skis don't turn as quick, though. You're basically just trying to find the best speed. Downhill and Super G tend to be more focused towards people who are heavier and taller. So think of like, your big bulky guys. Those ones tend to do the better in those events than, slalom and giant slalom, where you need a little bit more of a leaner athletic fit.
So you're in skiing because your parents won't let you play hockey. And then you said you also knew at age 5 you wanted to be an Olympian. Did you know what you wanted to do, what sport you wanted to do? What drew you in?
I think I watched, I want to say it was a Sydney Games. So it was a Summer Olympics that I watched for the first time. And I just wanted to be there. There was something to it that drew me, seeing these people standing on the podium and competing in this large event. I felt that that's where I needed to be. I didn't know what sport it was. I mean, my parents were nice enough that they didn't just put me in ski racing. They put me in karate, basketball, soccer, swimming. So they put me in a variety of different sports. So I was exposed to different things, and it was a lot of fun.
So then when did it maybe click for you that skiing could be the sport that takes you to the Olympics?
When I was 7, I moved to Calgary with my family. My dad got a job here, and we started skiing at a hill called Sunshine. It's near Banff. It's a very famous ski resort. Having the ability to ski in the Rockies and having that like large environment where there's so much terrain and so many things you can do, I think that really clicked. Like, okay, this is a sport that I want to take and go as far as I can. And it was 2-3 years later, I started to really develop and become a better skier. I was very passionate about it and getting results that I didn't think I could do. It clicked to me at that point. I was like, okay, this can happen if I keep going down the path that I am.
What does training look like? And has that changed as you've prepared for each Olympics?
It really, it ebbs and flows. I had a period of my life where I was pretty focused on ski racing. Like that was pretty much my life. And I think it was around from 17 to 21, I had been fully dedicated to it. I put my school on the back burner. So my days were pretty much 5 days on snow. It was basically a full-time job. Like I didn't really go to high school. Funny enough, I was looking at one of my high school report cards, and for like one semester I had like 40, 50 days of absence. that was marked on my report card sheet for my teachers. They're like, the grades are reflective of the fact that he's not here. But that's all I cared about. That was what I was focused. My parents did support me, although both of them are very educated people. So they were like kind of willing, not willing. They're like, okay, well, you're going to need to go to school at some point. But yeah, 5 days a week. Sometimes it was double sessions. So I was training 4 or 5 hours on snow and then come back. I'm in the gym. I'm doing recovery. I'm prepping for the next day. And then I get 2 days off. So it was very much a focus all year round. I'm either full-time skiing. So I started in August or July in the Southern Hemisphere. And then I move over here or Europe. And then I get started in April. And then April is off season. So April, I'm pretty much in the gym all the way to the summertime. So it was like that. Now it's a bit different because I do work a full-time job. So I am working, and then right after work, I go train. And then on my off days, because I have a 8 days on, 6 day off rotation. So as soon as my rotation is done, then I'm going straight to the mountains and I'm training for those 6 days and then driving back to Calgary to catch a flight to go back up north.
What kind of toll does that take on your body? I got to imagine it's not easy.
No, I definitely feel it now. Like my hips are pretty out of whack. And I mentioned earlier, I had 10 surgeries. So I had 2 ACL surgeries and then medial meniscus. I broken my tibia, I tore my groin, my hamstring, thumb, and then I've had a few surgeries actually on my jaw. I broke it 3 months before my first Olympics. It's just like a freak accident that happened. So the toll is there definitely physically. And I'd say now it's sort of going towards the mental side of things.
I want to get to that. But you've mentioned for multiple years, you've held down a job as you've trained. I know you went to school. You have both your undergrad and your master's degree. You train, you lift, you run. How do you juggle all that? How do you mentally make space for everything that needs to happen in a 24-hour period?
I have to force myself to do it. I will admit it has become more difficult as I've gotten older. When I was in school and skiing and training, like my life was pretty simple, but now working has made it very complicated. I think it is just a matter of I know what my goals are and I have to apply those. So I try to give myself mentally tell myself, okay, it's only going to be 2-3 hours of physical training. The rest of the day is up to you and what you want to do. And if you don't make these decisions and go train, you're going to pay for them later on. So it's difficult. I still struggle. Like there are days where I've gone off shift at work and I'm lying down in my bed. I'm like, I don't really want to go to the gym. And then I also look at the countdown. It's like, oh, it's less than 100 days. So everything I do now will add up.
How has your perspective on what it takes to be successful, both in the training and at the actual Olympic Games, shifted over the last, I'll say 2 Olympics, but you mentioned you were in the Youth Olympics as well. So I want to include that.
I think what I've learned to accept is that perfectionism is bullcrap. If we focus so much, like I for a long time in ski racing, I was like, I need to have perfect runs. I need to have perfect days. If this is not perfect, it's over. Especially on race day, it's my events are 2 runs. So the 2 runs will count. You could screw up in your first run, but you can make it up in your second and do better. Well, I've always came in a mentality like I screw up the first run, my day is over. And ironically, on the day that I qualified for these Olympics, I had a terrible first run. And my coach was scolding me. He's like, that was terrible. Like that was the worst skiing I've ever seen you done this year. Like you completely wasted an opportunity. Second run, I came in and angrier and charging it, and I ended up qualifying. So being perfect is not going to help you. And also accepting that you're going to fail, and it's going to be either days of failure and then days where you're doing really well. So it's going to ebb and flow. And eventually this sort of up and down is going to get a little bit more flatter over time. And I'd say the third thing I've learned is to accept like you're also human, and that whatever emotions or feelings you have, those are completely valid. I used to really repress what I was feeling. If I had a bad day at skiing, I was like, okay, well, it is what it is, and try to like move on from it. I think it's good to have that mental resilience, but knowing like it's okay to feel down about it. But how you pick yourself up and continue forward is important. And especially at my first Olympics, my first Youth Olympics, I absolutely did terrible. I didn't finish a single race. So I came back and I just felt like I'm wasted my time and my energy. Like maybe I'm not cut out for this sport. And that whole season just went from like I was doing this and then just downhill because of that one event, instead of accepting like it happened and taking the time to grieve and process and move forward.
Speaking of grieving and processing, before you qualified for the Pyeongchang and Beijing Olympics, you competed to qualify for the Sochi Winter Olympics in 2014, I believe. You were on your final run, and then what happened?
The last race that I needed to finish before the qualification period was over, I was close to the finish line, and I just hip slid. So I got in my inside ski and just slid out, and that was it. And I went to the side of the run, and I was actually pretty angry. I just snapped my pole and started screaming. So I knew the Olympic journey was over at that point. So essentially what I needed 5 finishes in one event to order to get my quota. In another event, I was close. I had just missed the cutoff by 1/100th of a second. So looking at the result sheet and seeing like that, I knew exactly where I could have pushed the line a little bit further, and knowing like I missed it by that much. It was, yeah, I think it took me a good 2 years to heal from that, because I did not accept that I failed on my terms. It wasn't anything that anyone else did. Leading up to those Olympics, like I had such an up and down season. I trained really well, but I'd get such poor results because I was not focused and dialed in and really just accepting like may not be a good day, but you always have chances. Like as I was mentioning before, like your first run, might not be good, but you always have a second run. I always gave up pretty much after the first run. So then having that, slip through my hands, it crushed me. It's hard. Yeah, I was crushed. I was like, I basically just spent the last 4 years training for this, spent, thousands of dollars of my parents' hard-earned money, and I failed. Like I didn't feel any good about myself. I given up on my education. I slacked through high school. I had burned friendships over this goal, and now it's not here. So I kept pushing myself harder. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. I was waking up 5 a.m. every single day for 2 years straight, training, had great training days, terrible race days, wasn't taking time to process. And eventually I did burn out. And I remember my dad telling me, he's like, okay, well, if you don't want to do this, you have to go back to school. You have to figure out what you're going to do if you're going to upgrade your high school marks, start paying rent, but this will live with you for the rest of your life. He's like, you're 19. When 10 years from now, when you're 29 or 30 and you're working a job, maybe married and having kids, you will remember that moment that you made that decision to quit. And that stuck with me. And I decided, okay, I'm going to try this again.
When you made that decision, were you worried that you'd eventually burn out again and that you wouldn't know how to have fun in the sport?
The year before I started competing on the FIS level, which is the level that I am now, I had so much fun in the sport. I enjoyed everything that I was doing. I enjoyed going to ski hill every day, seeing my friends, and just having a great time, even if it was a bad run. I lost that. And I went free. I think, it was just before the end of the season, I went skiing just for fun. And it reminded me of that love for the sport again. I also made the hard decision to actually move away from Calgary. So I moved to a small town called Invermere, and living there in a small town, not really knowing many people and having to kind of rebuild again, that helped me to get me to where I am. And I started to realize like this sport is fun, even though some days you definitely want to bang your head against a wall.
What made you want to move? Why move?
There was a coach, an Austrian coach my dad met about 3 years prior to that, and he was really pushing. He's like, listen, if your son comes to Invermere and trains with me and trains with my team, he will qualify for the Olympics. I guarantee you that. And like, just trust me. And so I made that choice willingly, and I trusted him. And yeah, it turned out to be the best thing I've ever done.
It did, because you qualified for the 2018 Olympics. What did that feel like? So now, especially after having gone through the run up to Sochi and all of those, you said bad days, bad races, that you were hard on yourself. What was that moment like?
It was a bittersweet moment, because also leading to Pyeongchang, I was healing. So I finally got over the hump of, okay, I'm actually a good athlete. Like Sochi slipped away, but I can go to these Olympics. And then about a year and a half out from the Olympics, I tore my knee. So I blew my ACL, and I was skiing at my best. So suddenly everything went like this and then dropped. Again. Then rehabilitating, that took a year to get back on snow. And then suddenly I had 4 months to qualify for the Olympics, and I was like super stressed. I was happy, but I also was like very exhausted because of all this up and downs for nearly 8 years of my life. It's like, okay, I qualified. But the weird thing that happened on the day that I qualified is I crossed the finish line. I knew, based on my time and where I was ranked, I knew I punched my ticket to the games, but I was not internally I was like, yeah, but externally I was not happy. Like I didn't show any emotions. And I went back to my we were in Whistler for that race. I went back to my hotel room, had a bag of chips, and I was like watching this, I forgot the name of the show. I was just watching a show, and my girlfriend at the time texted me and she's like, why aren't you happy? Like, why aren't you partying? Like, you worked so hard to achieve this, and you did, like, you made it through so much turbulence. You should feel happy. And I did it. And it took me probably good 2-3 years to realize what exactly happened at that moment.
Which was?
I was experiencing, Michael Phelps actually coined this, the post-Olympic crash. I was starting to get to the first stage of the post-Olympic crash because I didn't have a backup plan. I had put everything in plan A, and plan A worked, but I knew plan A was not going to be sustainable. It wasn't going to make me money. It wasn't going to give me the life that I needed. So that popped up in my mind of, oh no, what's going to happen next?
And for the 2018 games, you didn't compete for Canada. You actually competed for your parents' country. What drove that decision? Why'd you want to do that?
So in 2011, I had met a foreign dignitary someone from the Eritrean government who was involved in sports, and he had said, hey, why don't you start competing for Eritrea? And I thought it was like a cool idea, but at the same time, it was just logistically challenging because Eritrea did not have a ski federation at the time. They only had Olympic Committee. They were recognized by the IOC. And there was also I grew up in Canada. I don't know how people will feel about this. But then after that, I realized the impact that it had on my community and how much support and people that want to get involved in winter sport. And now we actually have 3 athletes from Eritrea that compete in winter sports. So it's that made it like a bigger goal. Like, okay, now I want to help other people, in the diaspora that maybe grew up in a little bit of a shelter environment. Like, hey, you can do these things. You can go into winter sports. They are accessible to you. You don't have to not do it because you're afraid of standing out.
I mean, because you have been the sole winter athlete at these games for the country. So you are the flag bearer, you are the face, you are everything. Has that added to the pressure that you feel when you're at the games, or does it not really impact it?
My first Olympics, it did. There was a lot of pressure. Like overnight, I think I had like 100 or 200 followers on Instagram. And my story broke out the next morning. I woke up as like 2,000-3,000 followers. And there were tons of messages on Instagram and Facebook, and I couldn't answer them. Like it was just overwhelming. So it did add to the pressure. In Beijing, I didn't feel that pressure as much because I knew that people were proud of me already for what I've accomplished. And I just had to go there and race and do what I could do. And so that alleviated. And even now going into Milan, I don't feel that pressure because I know regardless of what happens, people will support me, and I know I've done the work to get to where I need to be.
You have said that each Olympic cycle feels different. What do you mean by that?
I felt every Olympic cycle brought new challenges in my life. My first Olympics, I had to learn how to compete at the international stage at such a young age, learning about actually emotional intelligence and how to stay calm under pressure. My second Olympics, it was learning actually how to heal from the past, learning to have fun in the sport, and realize like even though you might have not a good result, that doesn't define you as a person and who you are. Like you have a lot more to give. And then these Olympics, I think it was recognizing that when I've hit my lowest point, I still need to keep taking those steps forward as I did in the past.
Is it hard to be present during Olympic Games, and especially on race day?
On race day, yes. Prior to that, not really, because I know I am already at the Olympics and I already know what I need to do to set myself up for race day. But on race day, yeah, it's hard. Like this last Olympics, I actually shut off my Instagram 3-4 days before because I couldn't handle seeing the comments or any of the messages I was getting, and I needed to shut myself off. And then immediately after my race, I logged in. So it was hard. And then seeing my friends on race day, it's weird in our sport, especially at that level, like everyone's really friendly on training day, but as soon as it's time to compete, you're in your own world. Like you want to almost like beat up the other person. And then when you're done, you're like, okay, this person beat me, but it's fair. That's a fair game.
I mean, I can only imagine what it's like, one, to be even just competing to go to at an Olympic level and the level that you compete, but then actually to be at a game. I can only imagine the pressure that is there. How do you handle that? Do you have tips or habits or tricks that you do to kind of stay grounded?
Pretty much it's like I switch on, I switch off. So most of the day I am switched off. This is something I learned throughout my years in my career, is like, if you're always on, you're going to burn yourself out mentally before you get in that start gate. So I really tried to flip off and keep my mind off the race and more focused on the small steps to get there. That's maybe getting on the gondola, putting on my boots. And then before I'm about to go, I take a few minutes to visualize the course, take some few deep breaths, and realize, okay, I am prepared and there's no point of return now. I have to go. And no matter what happens, I have done everything I can to control what I could in the moment. In my past, I've tried to control things that I couldn't control. And my coaches always remind me, like, you can only control those things up until the start gate.
I think that is such a hard lesson for everyone to learn. You can only control what you can control. There's such a desire to try to force things to happen around you.
Yeah.
It is a hard lesson to learn. You've talked so much about bouncing back and what you've had to do mentally to do that. Can resilience be taught, or is it something that we all just kind of learn through the school of hard knocks?
I'd say it's a school of hard knocks. And this is something I thought, okay, through failure, like, yeah, you definitely can learn resilience through failure, but you're going to be knocked down when you least expect it. So you have to be prepared for it. Like, as I mentioned, a year ago, everything in my life was perfect. And then suddenly it's like, I lose my job and don't have the financial support, don't have the things that I need to succeed, and left at a point where I'm like, how did I even end up here? I thought that was behind me 8 years ago. So you never know. And so those experience will teach you how to be resilient, because you can make choices that will help you or basically push you down further.
You talked earlier about the post-Olympic depression and the aftermath of that you felt. How did it manifest for you? And are you doing anything to maybe lessen that after these upcoming games?
So what happened in Pyeongchang, I'll actually go back to that. A lot of Olympians I've talked to have said, like, you go to the Olympics, you train for 8 years, maybe your entire life, and it could either be the best moment or the worst moment. My race was about 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and it took me 8 years to get there. And then suddenly it's gone. You're done. Some people win. They have endorsement deals, media, everything is catered to them. Some people don't. And that there was such a dopamine high, and then just a crash. And the night before I left, I was walking back to the Olympic Village. We went out drinking. And all I can think was, what am I going to do? I have no education. I know ski racing is not providing me a life. Like I was living with my parents, relying on them for income. So that was a difficult period. And so I did take a year off, and having to try to explain that to people and what I was doing, people didn't really resonate. You go back to a civilian life of having to interact with people. I didn't develop the social skills that I needed, because at that time, all I had was in the ski racing community, all my friends, all my network. So there wasn't any sort of transition out. No one talked about it. There was no sort of conversation. So I remember having these conversations with my girlfriend at the time. It was very difficult because she didn't understand. She's like, you're an Olympian. Like, this is great. Like, you should be at the top of the world. And I didn't feel that way. And then I decided to go back to school. That was even more difficult because I was still trying to have that same mentality of, I'm an athlete. I have to basically do school like I train, and not party, not drink, train every day, wake up early. And it was actually my final semester. That's when it really hit my mental health, and I realized I needed to go back to therapy and The other things I've done is I've learned to separate the two identities. So, what I do on a regular basis, like my training, if I have a bad training day, that does not equate to who I am as a person. But even now, I think going for these Olympics, even though I'm going to therapy regularly, journaling, spending time with friends, it will still affect me because it is a huge portion of my life. Like I've been doing this since I was 3 years old. So there is going to be a sense of grievance that will occur. I definitely will have a couple months where it's going to be a low period, but that doesn't mean it's going to be terrible.
So are you going to be done competing after this games?
Yeah. I actually had said I was going to be done after Beijing, and I promised my parents because my dad was not happy when I came back initially because he was like, I thought you were done. Like, you need to focus on school and getting a job. And yeah, I think the next stage of my life now is I've always, wanted to have kids and start a family. So that's been important. And that's always been back in my head. And my brother has 2 kids, and both of them are talking to me now, like I want to go skiing and I don't have the time to teach them skiing. So the focus needs to go into other things in my life. And yeah, I'm excited for this next stage. I think it'll be good, but definitely I will be missing ski racing.
Does it ever feel isolating? Because as an athlete and as an Olympian, you have a unique experience that really only a handful of people have.
The other aspect of being an athlete is you're very secluded. Like you're in your world, you wake up and you go to bed with your own thoughts. You get up in the morning, you train, you do things, you don't get to spend time with other people and miss birthdays. And so it's a very isolating lifestyle, even though you have so many people around you. And so that kind of is difficult to explain to people. And I definitely had a few moments where I was trying to explain to my friends about my feelings, and I don't think they were trying to dismiss it, but some of them have been like, you should be happy. Like, why do you feel like you're isolated? Like you're living, your best life. So yeah, it's really hard to tell people and explain to some people, what you've experienced throughout your life up until this point.
I feel like in sports, success and failure is very rigidly defined. You either you win, you lose, you go, you don't go. To me, it feels very black and white as an outsider looking in. Have you had to change your definition of success and failure as you have gone through your entire career?
I would say even this past season, I had to change what that looked like. I had been off skis I've been off ski racing for at least 2.5 years. And I went into my first race, and it was actually the worst race I've ever done in my entire career. The points that I scored were terrible. And I remember coming back home and telling my coach, I'm like, I'm so frustrated. I'm so upset. This is terrible. And he's like, listen, you need to understand that you've been off snow for 2.5 years. All these people had consistent years of training. You had intermittent stops. So it's going to be a much steeper curve for you to get back there, but we will get there. Today is a success because you came out and you raced and you finished. That was the first step. Now we know it was a terrible run. Now we need to know your mental state was not the best. So we make the next steps. So, and he always tells me this, and I apply this to my life. He said, in a race, you're going to have, many turns. You're not going to win all the turns. He said, try to win as many turns as you can, because percentage wise, that will be your best. So I've always tried to apply that in my training. Just after the new year, I was also denied funding from my country. And I had just gone through multiple interviews. People rejected me. And I was kind of, bank accounts running low. And I remember recording a video of my retirement video. But the next day was going to be supposed to be my last race. And I just said to myself, like, okay, well, you're at this point. So tomorrow you can just take the step forward and see what happens. Either it's going to go well or it's going to go bad. And so I've always kind of applied that, like, okay, just take that step. And then that step, I ended up getting really good results. And then that boosted my confidence. And then the next race, I got really good results. And then the third was that's like a lot better. So I came back home, and then somebody in Italy who knew about my story reached out to me, and was like, hey, I know what's going on. Let me help you. I'll take you to Italy. We'll build a plan to support you for the Olympics. So then all of a sudden, I'm in Italy in March. The month before, I got flown out to the US, and then I'm in New York. I'm meeting sponsors. I'm meeting people that I'm networking with. And it's all because I just made that one step.
Do you still have that retirement video? Is it potentially queued up for some point?
It is.
A few last questions before our lightning round. The opening ceremony for the Milan Games is less than 2 months away. So what are you doing these last few weeks?
Getting back on snow, that's my first thing. Getting myself mentally prepared for the games, because now it's becoming real. And then there's a lot of logistical planning I'm going through, trying to get my team there, and then figuring out also my family is wanting to come. So now I have to like step in and inform people on where to go and plan their logistics. So it's a bit chaos, but I know it will be okay by the time, December, January rolls around. It's like, okay, I'm going to get on a plane and that's it. So just really trying to make good use of the time.
Are you superstitious at all, or do you have any superstitions before a race?
I used to shave my mustache the day before the race. Yeah. So for the last two Olympics, I used to just shave this off completely before the race day. I don't know why, but I would just do it. But now not really. I mean, if I don't want to get rid of this. If I look like this, people are going to ask. Last time I shaved my mustache, I was going to Staples to get some stuff, and someone's like, "Oh, what year of high school are you going to?" Yeah, that was 11 years ago, dude.
Well, my last question, and you touched on it early, you're kind of looking at your post-ski career, your post-Olympics career. How do you want to use your story and your experiences to change how we support athletes? I know you mentioned you want to help those from smaller nations and underfunded programs. What does that look like?
I think the biggest thing I want to focus on and through my own story is to not just athletes, but to share with people. If you have a dream or something that you're focused on, or want to achieve, go for it. 100% give yourself into it. Know that, you will struggle and you will go through difficult times, but that will make you a better person. And if you continuously stick with it, you'll get there. It might not be tomorrow. It might be 5 years, 10 years to continue to go down that path. One thing that really surprised me was when I obviously posted my video about my layoff, how many people messaged me and said, I needed to hear this today. I'm going through this right now. What did you do to survive? How did you get to where you are? And just seeing that you came out of the other side has given me hope that there is light at the end of the tunnel. So I try to be as authentic as I can to share what I've gone through. And then for the athlete side of things, helping, my teammates for my country be able to compete at the next Olympics. I'm hoping there's two of us. So we'll have a cross-country skier and an athlete, either in alpine or ski cross. So that's my next goal. And just raise awareness to people to know, athletes we are humans and we struggle the same way that anyone else does. And hopefully there's a platform right now that's actually helping athletes. It's called Free Agent. So trying to also encourage companies to know, we are valuable. We do have, skills that we can provide outside of our sport. And so to give us a chance, I think that's important, because I find that some recruiters that I've worked with, they'll see that I've been an Olympic athlete and they'll see that gap in my resume and they'll immediately write it off. And so I want to be able to kind of raise awareness, people that transition out of sports, we can do other things. We're not just an athlete.
Well, Shannon, we are at our lightning round, so I have some fast lightning round questions for you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Is your bed made right now?
Yes.
What emoji do you use the most?
The crying face laughter.
Does pineapple belong on pizza?
No.
What is your favorite movie?
Dune, the newer version.
You can only keep one app on your phone. Which app survives?
Outlook. That's all I need right now.
Texting or talking?
Talking.
What is one experience you think everyone should have at least once?
Controversial take. Heartbreak.
Oh, that's not controversial. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I agree, too.
Yeah.
If you could do any other Olympic sport, what would you do?
Oh, this is tough. I think I would do weightlifting because I've gotten big into it recently. Like there was a period where someone tried to recruit me to bobsled, and so they did a lot of heavy lifting. So I'd probably do weightlifting.
If you could have a walk-up song, what would it be?
So in Creed 2, Adonis is walking out to fight Victor, and that song, I forgot the name of it. Go to War, I think it's called. That one.
What is your favorite comfort food?
So this is something only in Canada that it has, but there's something called ketchup chips. A few companies make it, but Lay's makes a version of it here. It's only available in Canada. It's one of the best things that I've ever had. Like when it's ever in sale, I'll get I could crunch 2 bags of those chips, and it's like a tangy, sweet flavor. I posted on my story actually because I know most of my followers are American, and they said it was absolutely disgusting. And I'm like, no, you haven't tried it.
There's like a sushi flavored Pringle. I don't know if you've ever seen it or tried it. Yeah. There's ironically the gas station up the street from me, which is about as American as you can get, has this one aisle of like Pringles that you can only find in Asia. And so it has all these very unique flavors. And there's like a sushi flavored one. I have not tried it because I draw a line somewhere.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, that's a line.
And last but not least, what is the best kind of French fry?
I'm going to say waffle fries because I actually make my own waffle fries here.
Like from scratch you make them?
Yeah. That's a recipe that I'm dropping on my my Instagram soon.
Well, Shannon, where can people find you?
They can follow me on Instagram. So my handle is my name, Shannon Abeda, or on Facebook, same handle.
Well, thank you for coming on. Thank you for taking the time. I know you are at the cusp of really gearing up for the games. You have a lot more things to focus on, but I think as you've said that you saw through posting your video and through the community that we have, your story resonates. A lot of what you have had to say are what folks need to hear. So I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here.
Thanks for listening to The Middle. If today's story resonated with you, drop a subscribe, share the episode, and let's keep these conversations going. Until next time, remember, your story isn't over. You're just in the middle.